Good morning. So, how many of you like high school? I mean, serious. Come on. All right. What do you like about going to high school? Friends. You get to play sports. You get to. What about how many like to learn? Wow. I don't know. I gotta say it's a little disappointing. But so let me give you a little bit about my background. Okay. First of all, I believe God created each of us with a specific gift, and that's yours, that your Creator gave you. Because just people doubt God, how we are made. It says in the Bible, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. How we are made is a perfect example of why we did have a Creator. Because you cannot give us the things that we need, and there's so little that if one thing goes slightly wrong, it basically kills you. And I mean, that's because we were created by somebody who knew what he was doing. He said he knew us when we were in the womb. He knew the number of hairs on our heads. Think of how intimately that is. That's how much your Creator loves you. And that's how much of a gift when you guys aren't mistakes. For anybody who worries about your role, God created you for a purpose, right? And that, to me, is the greatest evidence of God, because how could we be who we are, function as we do, if it wasn't for a Creator? Plus, He also gave us the ability to create. That's got to come from somewhere, okay? So my gift is I'm good at sports knowledge. Always since I was a little kid. All right, 7 years old. I remember 1981. Okay, I am old. All right. So, like I said, I like to joke. I was born before we broke away from the British. Anybody get that? No. Okay. Yeah, we were once owned by the British back in the 17th. Never mind. Anyway, so. 7 years old, crying because the New York Jets lost to the Buffalo Bills in the AFC wildcard game. Now, my dad worked at, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not from here. My accent's a little different. People have a hard time understanding me. It's because I'm from New York. Right? It's considered with, Yankee, whatever you want to refer to me. That's where I grew up. So my dad worked for the New York Jets and the New York Mets. I mean, he was an usher. Worked at their ballpark. That's how he made extra money. As his main job, he was an entertainment coordinator on Wall Street, and he had tickets also to a lot of those games. So as a kid growing up, I got to see a lot of basketball games, got to see a lot of baseball games, hockey games, football games. So 7 years old, I'm crying because the Jets lose to the Bills. My sister's consoling me like somebody just died, and that to me was, I knew I was, in love with sports. So as I get older, the only thing I really wanted to do was learn about sports. And I hated to read. So my father said, well, you have to read. So any book you read about, regular life or things you don't know about, you get to read about sports. And that was okay for me. It was pretty good trade-off. The other thing was I was a very good athlete. A two-sport athlete. Very good at baseball, very good at basketball. Baseball was my first love. Baseball is just something about baseball. And when you learn how to play, it's just the feel of the uniform when you put it on, leading on first base, learning how to make a move against the pitcher, the battle between the pitcher and the hitter. I was a pitcher and I was a shortstop. So those are two things that I grew up learning how to do. I was just a natural ball player. My dad used to say, you just look like a ball player. Basketball, I picked up 7th grade, and I fell in love with it. And made varsity in 8th grade. And again, I went to a small Christian school. So we had, 30 in my graduating class, back in 1993, way a long time ago. So it was, it's not like I was going to a huge high school where we had hundreds of people, but took to it like, like it was something I was born to do as well. Summer of 1990, I was just getting really good at basketball. Went to basketball camps all summer. Baseball, the year before I won MVP in the league, I hit over, it's hard to believe I did this, but I hit over 700. Had like 15 homers, 40 RBIs. It got to the point where they wouldn't pitch to me. I was undefeated as a pitcher as well, so I was a pretty good player. Mississippi State had interest in me, and this was only in 10th grade. As 11th grade begins, I noticed I had a pull in my back. Now, I don't want to get too graphic, but it was on my butt, and I thought it was a hemorrhoid. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay much attention to it. It got bigger and bigger to the point where I couldn't sit down. Where during basketball, first 3 games of the year, I couldn't sit on a bench. I had to lay on the ground. After one of our games, last game I played December 9th, 1990, we played at Stony Brook. It was one of our rivals. We lost. I had maybe 15 points, 10 rebounds. Got to the bench, and I was so mad I kicked a few chairs because I fouled out. Thinking, I'll be able to redeem myself next game. Next day, we go to the doctor because I was in so much pain after I went to the bathroom. They said, you have an abscess. We'll have to remove it. Abscess is just a thing of pus that you remove. We go to the hospital the next day. They said, you'll be in and out. Go in there. When I come out, don't really remember much. It was real foggy. Monday Night Football was on. The Raiders were playing the Lions. And I remember looking at my mom thinking, where am I? She goes, well, there's little complications in the surgery. If you keep you here for a little while, they just ran a little test. Didn't really think of it much the next day when I was more awake. She said, well, they found something. It wasn't an abscess, it was something else. We don't know what it is. They're going to do some tests on it. Again, wasn't real worried about it. They waited about a day and a half. They said, well, when you're able to go to the bathroom, you can go home. So I go to the bathroom that day. I'm so happy. I'm ready to go home. The doctor comes in. He's looking at me. Little concerned. My dad was with me, and he goes to my father. I talked to you for a sec. Goes outside. I'm kind of wondering. My father comes in, and you could tell my dad didn't take bad news very well. My dad didn't have a poker face. Okay, you could kind of tell when something was bothering him. And then he would start to stutter. Mark, this, And so I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. He didn't tell me he left. About an hour goes by, if still nobody's there. So I walked down. My dad had went to call my mom. I go down at the end of the hall. There's my doctor, my mom, and my sister in the room, my older sister. And everybody's crying. So I said, what's wrong? Like, tell me what's wrong with me. And so the doctor says, Mark, you have cancer. And, we can't really help you here. We're going to have to send you to the city. So, now I didn't know. 16 years old, what do I know about cancer? You die, right? I mean, back then especially. So, but at this point too, I'm thinking, I'm 16, I'm strong, this isn't going to kill me, But, I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of fear there, okay? But somehow I had an inner peace about it, and that was until we kind of got to the hospital. So we go to Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York City, one of the top cancer hospitals in the world. Thank God we live in New York. My brother-in-law was there, and I'm waiting with him. And me and my brother-in-law, we always used to talk about sports, always had something to talk about. But when the unknown is involved, we didn't know what was going to happen to me. We didn't know what to talk about, because you're like, can't really talk about normal stuff because we're in a place we shouldn't be at, and we don't know what's going on. They made me take me to my room, and I didn't want to be in a wheelchair. You have to be put in a wheelchair when you take into your room. I'm like, don't put me in a wheelchair. I don't need it, I'm strong. As soon as I get to the elevator, literally my legs gave out on me. I collapsed. Okay, I'll take the wheelchair. They wheel me in, run some more tests. Thing I didn't know at the time is when I was at the hospital on Long Island, they thought I had terminal cancer. So they told my parents, your son has 6 months to live. That's why everybody was pretty much crying. But they re-diagnosed me, and because there was more advancement at Sloan Kettering, they said, well, he doesn't have terminal cancer, he has a thing called rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a skeletal muscle cancer. And there are only 66 cases in the world a year. And most of them happen between the ages of 2 and 6. And I'm 16. Lucky, I guess. But while it's treatable, it's deadly. And they would treat it the way they treated it before, normal chemotherapy, radiation, and then if you were in remission, it would come back, and it would come back, and then it would kill you. So we want to change the way we're going to do it. We're going to have a new protocol. We're going to give you a bone marrow transplant, which basically means we are going to take your ability to make blood away from you, and then we will reintroduce blood to your system. So whatever was in there that caused this, we're going to restart it. Now, the good news about that is that, yeah, they can do it. The bad news is that you most likely need a donor for a bone marrow transplant. And they bring you to the brink of death. So you have no blood counts toward the end. And if you have no blood counts, you have no ability to fight infection. Your white blood count at 0.5, it needs to be before they allow you out of the hospital. A normal white blood count is between 5 and 10, depending on who you are. And when you have chemo, that attacks all the cells in your body because you are getting poison put in your body. So it's killing the good cells, but it's killing the bad cells as well. So the good news in that case was I was able to get my own bone marrow because that was never affected. There were never any cancer cells in my bone marrow, which is a miracle in itself. Somehow it was just limited to that one area, but it had grown to the size of a grapefruit. And they said, well, we're probably going to have to do surgery at some point because it is so big, but we're going to treat it with, you're going to have 6 doses of chemo, and then you're going to have radiation. All right. Well, first dose of chemo, again, there's no way you can be prepared for chemotherapy. And imagine getting poison put in your body. That's all I got to say. You throw up, lose your hair, pretty bad. However, after that first treatment, and I'm noticing my backside, my butt is a lot lighter. It had shrunk the tumor by about 90%, where it was almost gone. And I told my doctors, it said, nah, wouldn't happen, no way. And they looked, they're like, yeah, it's pretty much had that effect. Whatever it was extremely potent to getting that tumor down. By the second treatment, I had no signs of cancer in my body. They had done an MRI on me, they did a CAT scan, they did of even more intrusive test that kind of really gets to where the cancer cells are in your body, a body scan, and there was no signs of it whatsoever. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm free, like this, that was it for me. They had a charity basketball game for me. We had someone from Christ of the Nations, which was a church right down the road from me, hand me a note before that game. And the note said, you were healed, God is your healer. Rest in this. And I'm thinking, this is a sign from God. I told my parents, I don't need to go through treatment anymore. I'm done. And they're a little skeptical. So they say, well, tell your doctors, if they say it's okay, then, you don't have to do treatment anymore. Well, no doctor's going to say, yeah, okay, faith, yeah, we believe in that. Yeah, okay, well, no cancer cells, yeah, you don't have to go through the rest of the protocol. Me at 16 years old thinking I can have that conversation with them, I do, and my doctor says, all right, you have a choice to make. Continue with the rest of this, or you could leave. But if you leave, you might as well, put a gun to your head and pull the trigger, because you're going to die. So when you hear that, you don't really have a choice to make. Plus, I wasn't able to make my choice. I was only 16, so my parents kind of had to make it for me. And my mom was like, look, I think I want you to really, if if God really meant that for you, he would include it with your doctors, and he's the one who put these doctors in charge of you. So you need to finish your treatment. So I did. Needless to say, it was a long rest of the year. I had finished, that was in January, I had finished in June. My bone marrow transplant was July 15th. So many things went wrong during transplant. My bladder wall ripped, meaning that I had about 13 or 14 bladder surgeries just so they could heal the damage in my bladder. I had a broviectomy, which is a lumen that they give so they don't have to stick you with needles every 2 seconds when they want to get an IV in you. That became infected. They had to operate on me while I was awake. I could see what they were doing, a little traumatic. So many times God was with me, and I should have died. And there was a song that that means a lot to me. So I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. What does that mean? Fear can mean a number of things. We all have fear. It's really, to me, the unknown is what scares me. If I can't control something, I freak out a little. I'm not going to lie. But it also is the reverence of God. I mean, a knowledge and a reverence of God. That's what fear can mean. Because it says, you need to have a healthy fear of God. Doesn't mean that you're afraid of him, but you need to know who he is. So because of that, I think that's a way he tries to communicate with us about, you don't understand about who I am and what I can do. And I know where you are now, but I didn't kill you. Even if I have to crawl and make my way out of that hospital, I'll get out of there. And I'll live the rest of my life. Because you kind of saved me from this other choice where I could have died. However, wanted to be a dad, wanted to have a family. Those things were taken away. At 16, or now I'm 17. Did I really understand that at that point the chemotherapy and the radiation did so much damage? No. I figured, well, if God wants me to have kids, I'll have kids. And then when I got married and my wife wanted to have kids, we couldn't. It was kind of one of the things that led to our divorce. But I wasn't a very good husband either. So, and those all have to do with specific choices that you make as an adult. And even though I knew I was blessed by God and I had this, really, he saved me in a way that should have changed my life permanently, where I didn't take for granted things and I didn't assume things and I didn't question God and all that. I'm still human, and I did. And there were plenty of times when I've failed as a man, as a Christian man, and all those things. And when we did get divorced, it was very hard. It's been about 10 years now, but if somebody would have told me 10 years ago when I was living on Long Island, and we had a beautiful house, and my ex-wife worked for Fox News, and I had worked for ESPN for about 10 years before side effects of treatment kind of got to me in 2009. So anyway, from 99 to 2009, I worked for ESPN. That was my job. I told you I'm good at sports. If you would have told me then that I'd be here now in Alabama, no way. I would think, what planet are you on? Like New York, Alabama, no way. But this is where God wants me now. I was able to move down here in 2020, because at the time I was engaged to somebody down here. But COVID, again, things happen in life. Don't always go the way you want them to. But you got to roll. You got to roll with it. And you got to know that God's in control. And the other part of that song is, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm not going to sin? Does that mean I'm perfect? Does that mean that I'm not going to fail? It means that, I was created for a specific purpose, and I have value, and I have meaning. My life has meaning. Even though I cannot be a father, it still hurts me to this day. I cannot be, wasn't a very good husband, but hopefully I'll get the ability to be that again. Things happen in life, you got to understand. You can't hurt yourself and realize, there is redemption. There is a road that I can, if you did something to somebody or if you hurt somebody, you have to go to them and you have to acknowledge it and ask for forgiveness. But you have to forgive yourself too, and that's the hardest thing with me, is I never forgave myself for some of the things I had done. But we are redeemed. And Romans 8, I know, is one of my favorite biblical passages, especially 28 to 38, where, we've all sinned and fallen short, but nothing can separate us from the love of God. So who's going to condemn us? No one. And God has a plan for each of your lives. And I hope as you go through high school, I know high school can be rough, okay, but there's a whole life after that. And like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the problems you have now, you're not even going to remember. Okay, you're going to have a whole bunch of different problems. But God is always going to be who he is. That's not going to change. We have to understand that. And perseverance is another thing. I think the only thing that really separates success and non-success is your ability to persevere. You're going to get knocked down. But like, if any of you guys have seen Rocky, Rocky's a movie made back when I was younger, but it had like enough versions of it to where it probably affected your generation at some point. You're going to get knocked down, but can you get back up? That's a sign of character. And that's a sign that you're not giving up in any situation. I don't care if they got to drag me to my grave, I'm not going to die. Not until God says it's my time. And a couple weeks ago when I was supposed to be here, I wake up in a hospital room because I had basic surgery that they screwed up. And now they tell me I'm going to have to be there for 4 weeks. And I'm going to have a catheter put in my bladder because they had, my urethra had been eroded. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And the other thing they did is in trying to get to my bladder, they hit my intestines. My intestines you cannot touch. And that almost killed me right there because I almost had leakage. So that was just 4 weeks ago, all right? But God, again, every time there is a place where it seems like here's another battle for you. He's faithful. And it might be hard, and it might be tough, but as Christians, we're called to be tough. We're not called to be weak, okay? We're meek, yes, but not weak, okay? Humble ourselves before God, and he'll give us the ability to fight through the unknown, which for me, again, is scary and fear for me. But again, I am a child of God, and all you guys are children of the Father, right? And when you pray, try to understand that. And there are going to be plenty of times when you don't say the right thing, but again, there's redemption. You ask for forgiveness. You plead before God to use you however he can, and understand your value. Whatever you have as your gift to give uniquely to the world. How sad would it be if you didn't do it? How sad would it be if I didn't come here, and if I wasn't able to write and touch some of the lives I know I was able to write the story on you, that blessed my life tremendously. I mean, I think I didn't have stuff to learn, but I've learned from you guys every day. I substitute taught when I was in Calhoun County, and I really, this is one of my favorite things to do is connect with you guys. And if I see football games or basketball games, the interaction I have with you guys, I love, asking about who's going to win the Super Bowl or who's going to win this or that. These are all things I really love to do. So I'm going to close with one thing about what I'm really good at. So the Super Bowl is going to be a couple weeks, and you have the Chiefs against the Eagles, okay? So you have Patrick Mahomes, who's the quarterback for the Chiefs. Now, people are saying, well, how good is he? Is he the greatest quarterback ever to play? Well, only one quarterback has won more postseason games than him, and that's Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady is probably the greatest player to play any sport, being that he put together numbers in his mid-40s that even Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, and Wayne Gretzky did not do in their sport. Jordan played into his 40s, but he wasn't as successful as he was in his 30s, and Babe Ruth and Wayne Gretzky, probably the two best in their sport, didn't even play until 39. So Mahomes has 17 postseason wins, which is the second most. He has the most for the first 20 games of their postseason career, which is the only thing you can really judge them against. Only 8 quarterbacks have played 20 postseason games. Patrick Mahomes has won 17 games. Second best is Tom Brady with 15 and Joe Montana with 15. He has more passing yards than anybody except for Peyton Manning during his first 20 games. He has the highest completion percentage. He has the most touchdowns, and he also has a plus 35 touchdown to interception differential. So it shows you how dominant he is. That's an argument where if could he be better than Brady? He could be, and I never thought that was possible, believe me. I've had arguments with people, and I am not a Tom Brady fan because I'm a Jet fan, and Tom Brady has broken my heart more than you can know. But those types of things I can, right away, because they come to me. I know where to look for it. I know how to talk about it, and I could do that all day. And my ability to look at a box score and see things that other people don't see, that's kind of my gift. And also being able to write and somehow tell the stories I'm supposed to tell in a way where others can relate to them. That's what I like to do. How I can relate to you, how we can relate to each other, and how we can share this journey that we're all going through in life. Anybody have any questions? Come on, there's got to be one question. No? Anybody want to know like who won Super Bowl 34?
How did you get involved with ESPN?
How did I get involved with ESPN? Well, when I had gotten through high school, when I was sick too, one of the things that I had was they have different organizations, Make-A-Wish organization. They asked me, would you like to meet someone? And I thought, well, Magic Johnson's my favorite, I want to meet him. But he had just been diagnosed with HIV, so I couldn't do that. But I said, Dick Vitale, he's a famous college basketball announcer. I love college basketball. Let me meet him, and I'd like to go to the Final Four. So they sent me to the Final Four in 1992, where I got to meet Jim Valvano, who started the V Foundation, which has touched so many lives for cancer research. And when I was at ESPN, I was on the board of the V Foundation. And we stayed in touch, we stayed friends. And Dick is still alive. And Dick has helped me so many times. And so he got me an interview with them in 1999. And when I went there, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. They asked me to take stats down for the Rangers and Yankees playoff game. And I'm like, what? This is all I got to do? Really? I'll do this anyway. Went in and gave it to the guy who's on TV. And then they called me the next day and said, sorry, go someone else. And I'm like, what? How? This is what I was born to do. Well, the guy they hired went to work, went to lunch, never came back. So who did they call? All right, Mark, things have changed. We want you back. I was there so fast, and that started my career. And I got to the point where I was a researcher too, which is, there's only 3 researcher levels you can go to. But then again, the side effects of chemo and radiation, I have lymphedema in this leg, which means it swells, and I have to control it with wrapping and stocking. And I have Crohn's disease from the radiation, so you can see why I'm a little skinny. So there's a lot of other battles I fight too. And that kind of knocked me out for about 5 years. And then I was seriously bedridden from about 2010, 2013. Then I started to come back, started my own podcast in 2015 when nobody was doing it. I had about 300 episodes that I have online. On my website, CK Magic Sports, there's a lot of stuff where you can find research I've done in the past. I was on TV for 2 years, on TV 24. When I first moved down here, analyzing high school sports, which I had never done before. I have a YouTube channel too, which is CK Magic Sports. But again, I'm not a very good seller. I don't know how to sell myself. So I would like to do this a lot more, but I'm not very good at it, you know. So, you know, these are all reasons why God's still not done with me yet, and we'll see what plans he has with me. But he has the same plans for all of you guys. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry, kind of a little long. Anybody else?
Think if we chose a different path, God would still do the same?
Well, that's the thing. We do have choices, and that's a great thing. The worst you could have, like I know for those of you who ever thought about suicide, you know what? Your choice is taken away. You need choice. That to me saves me. As long as I have a choice, I can choose right. You can always choose death, but choose life. It'll reward you. So I could have made different choices, but I think God has my back no matter what. That's why he gives us that freedom to choose. But ultimately, he wants us to choose him. That's why he didn't automatically create us where we knew we had to choose. Now, he might know ahead of time. See, that's the thing. He already knows what we're going to choose, but we still have that ability to choose. By the way, Super Bowl 34, that was the Rams and the Titans. Final score was 23-20. Kurt Warner was the MVP. The game was played at the Superdome. The game ended when the wide receiver for the Titans was tackled at the 1-yard line. And that ended their ability to win the game. Steve McNair was the quarterback. Kurt Warner was the rookie quarterback for the Rams, and no one thought he was going to do it. And but people ask me, well, who won in 1999? Well, you don't do that. You go by number of the Super Bowl. So 1999 was Super Bowl 34. Anyway, that's it. Any more questions, Thank you.